Welcome to Solutions with Courtney Anderson. I'm Courtney Anderson. This is episode 231. And in episode 231 today, our show is part of our Management Magicians series. And this is our series, of course, where we honor our managers, those brave volunteers who step up to serve in a supervisory position, and they do it so well. They do it so deftly. They do it so skillfully, so artfully, so eloquently that it literally appears like it's magic. And these are the types of individuals that we're all aware of. You'll go and visit their business or their organization, and everybody seems like they're engaged and passionate, getting along, being effective, working well. And you think, how are they so well suited for this? How are they so well suited for each other? It literally looks like magic. And of course, the analogy for the supervisory or manager outside of a work environment who has these same skills, these elite skills, is that adult who is a parent or grandparent, a caregiver, an aunt, an uncle, a volunteer, maybe an educator of young children, and you look in their class or you look at their family when they're out and about at the store, and you think, how are they so well behaved? Not only are they well behaved, but they're not well behaved as if they're frightened or scared, right? They seem like they're, engaged and attentive and asking great, questions and polite and that they feel safe and cared for. How is this happening? It looks like magic, right? It isn't. And you and I know that when we see that, we see somebody out again, maybe with a family or a volunteer group of young children, or we see a teacher with young children. It's not magic. They didn't, quote, get lucky, right? That's what some people sometimes will make the accusation. They'll say, they just got lucky. Some kids are just well behaved. No, no, no. Yes, do we have a random factor? And do children and do us as adult, former children, do we have our own personalities? Are some of us maybe a little bit easier to get along with than others? Yes. But we all have that same random factor. So my argument is, if you see a teacher with young children with a group of 4-year-olds, and you make the argument, they just got lucky. They didn't get lucky with all of them. They might have gotten lucky in the sense that, maybe some of them really were just a little bit more naturally inclined to be cooperative. But that's the same luck factor that any other teacher would have, right? And of course, some people will say, well, now, sometimes it depends on where you are geographically. Sometimes people make the argument it depends on, the child's, earlier life experience. And yes, are those factors? Yes. And my point is that the exceptionally skilled supervisor, whether they're at work, we call them managers and management magicians in these series, or they're in their home environment or their volunteer or community environment, they're still utilizing these elite skills. And that is a part of, in many instances, the majority of the reason why it looks from the outside like it's magic, like they just got, quote, lucky. They didn't. They did have some element of luck like everybody else does. But they also used these skills and had a strategy so that they could create the best environment for every single one of those children. And at work, it's exactly the same thing. It is. So the argument that people will sometimes lob, and they just, you just can't, you have to deal with what you're given. What can I do? I'm a manager, and it's a disaster, but my team is awful. One of the things I've shared when we talk about this series, and certainly if you've met me when I'm on site at your organization doing corporate education, corporate training programs, or giving a keynote speech, I often come back, to the argument that when someone starts complaining about their team members, the analogy would be an adult complaining about, young children. I immediately discard everything they're saying about how, awful those young children are and how poorly behaved their team members are, and I immediately go right to analyzing them, right? Because that sort of parent who complains, "Oh, it's a disaster. My kids are awful. I just have the worst kids." What? I don't at all go down any line of thought about, "Wow, tell me more about how horrible your children are." No, I immediately think you are a problem. And you, in fact, may be the problem, right? You're not a victim. You're a victor when you're the one that volunteers, again, to lead. And you don't have any logical, credible argument, that you're just at the mercy of those who you're in charge of, those who you are given the honor of leading. I mean, it's just, I find that argument, it makes me uncomfortable, and in some instances, it really makes me, a bit upset. And it's a huge sign to me that that person does not need to be in any type of management position, supervisory position, anywhere, at work, outside of work, in a family, in a volunteer group. I don't care what it is. They don't need to do it because they don't have the basic understanding of how this works. So, Management Magician series, this show topic today is one that is so fundamental. It is just so fundamental to being a management magician. And yet, as I've had the opportunity to be engaged in problem solving and solution sets on site for hundreds and hundreds of client organizations around the world, for now I'm in my second decade of this show topic today is just mandatory. So what's this show topic that we according to what I'm sharing need to revere, that it needs to be such a priority in what we're doing? What is it? Here it is. Today in episode 231 of Solutions with Courtney Anderson, our show topic today is leaders are not liked. They are respected. Leaders are not liked. They are respected. Now, this, of course, ties to the series discussion that I was going through just a few minutes ago, because this is where I said earlier, the moment somebody complains about how horrible their team is at work or how awful the kids are in their volunteer youth group, I immediately know that I'm dealing with someone that doesn't understand the basics of leadership at all in any setting, right? Because if they did, they would never say things like that. Because it's your job as a leader to create the environment and model the behavior and communicate to people what's expected, and then use rewards to reinforce the behavior that is awesome. So this show today is, like I said, it's so fundamental. But as I mentioned, as I've been out on the ground and going here in my second decade doing this, going around the world, organizations, and talking and teaching and training on exactly this topic. Because this topic relates to every other management topic that we have. And also to all of our HR topics, to our strategic leadership topics, to our team building topics. I mean, okay, here. When you go to the CourtneyAnderson.com site, and I always mention that in our shows because that's our main central website, and it's not even been a year that we have changed the entire practice and begun to build out CourtneyAnderson.com as this repository, a library of sources. So we are in the 600, 700 page size as of now when we're making this program, and I'm and moving on up. And like I said, that's obviously because there was a shift in the practice where primarily for years the focus was what I was doing and providing the clients out what do they say in real life, right? Offline, coupled with my media appearances and things on television and things of that nature. And when we shifted things, part of it's just because no matter how much I travel, and even when I'm doing my 300 days a year, I still can't reach as many people as request assistance. So that's where we began, again, not even a year ago, to make this shift to build out the site to begin to replicate and provide the variety of solutions that we do on site or in real life at different events. And so please come to the site, bookmark it, come back. It's intended to seem some people say, oh, it's overwhelming. Wow. Well, no, I mean, I don't mean go there and look at all, 650 pages in one sitting. No, but it's organized, right, around each series, around the shows, around the different topics. And so what I'm saying is go through there, and if you wanted to learn about, finance, then go to the finance pages and shows. And when you go to CourtneyAnderson.com for this show, and again, there's a microsite within CourtneyAnderson.com for every single episode. This is again episode 231, and you can find the link. You should find it within the file of the show, file itself, whether you got it on iTunes or Libsyn or Stitcher, or you can just come to CourtneyAnderson.com, and put in episode 231, and boom, there you are. But there's also other links where you could go to like our talk show page, and then go to our Management Magician series, and then there's a list of all the Management Magician shows. So there's lots of ways to find us. What are you going to get when you finally get there? All right, what you're going to get when you get there is the structure of what we're doing in the last period, last quarter or so, is using what I'm referring to as a stone of solutions. And of course, a stone, a unit of measurement that equals 14 pounds in the U.S. system. So there are 14 highlight notes. And this was a challenge for this program because I could have, I could do, and I have been doing this topic for so long, I could do 1,400 programs on this, and probably have 14,000 or more specific issues. So, but what we were trying to do is start with, at least this show, sort of a big broad picture. What's going on? Leaders are not liked, they are respected. This is one of the most exciting things that I have been able to share corporate education and corporate training programs, because it wakes people up. And when we talk about this on site, when I said it's exciting, I have gotten some really amazing reactions. I've gotten people who completely concur with this assertion. They'll say, "Oh my goodness, I'm so happy finally somebody says it. That we don't have to worry about being liked. Thank goodness. Woo! I never wanted to. I don't care if people like me. I'm unlikable. I don't even want to talk about being liked." Okay. We've also had, so those are enthusiastic people, although they're not exactly understanding the full range of the argument. There've been other people who have actually been moved to tears, who basically said things like, "It's just not possible. I put everything into my likability, and I just believe if people don't like me, I've failed." Okay, so let's start to look through some of these points here. And as I said, we continue to add more content to the site. We're also adding different types of delivery vehicles. So we, of course, have our shows, which we will continue to have because I love doing them. And we've got this program, which is our audio or radio talk show, and then we have the companion video or television talk show. So we're doing both of those, but we're adding new webinars and workshops, so we'll be able to work through some of these maybe in different technology formats to reach more people. Okay. If you feel that being liked is really important to you, then you do not ever need to lead. That is right. I said ever. You don't need to be a parent. You don't need to be a lead adult in any position with children. You also don't need to be in any lead position with adults. Here's why. You have no control over whether or not people like you. None. As I said, this is an exciting topic when we do on-site programs for corporate education, corporate training, because I've had people really become very passionate and say, well, you're lying. And they'll say, well, I make cookies and I bring snacks to work and everybody likes them and they like me. And I've said in those settings, they probably eat your food probably because it's good. Obviously, you know how to make good cookies and snacks. But they can and they do. I'm telling you that there are people who eat your cookies and snacks and they still don't like you. They'll go talk about you right behind your back. Maybe they'll talk about you to your face. There's no correlation. It's like saying to somebody, "Oh my goodness, I don't understand. I went and I opened up my umbrella but it's not raining. I don't get it." Well, yeah, you just taking an umbrella, putting an umbrella in your hand and opening an umbrella doesn't make it rain. So you giving cookies and snacks doesn't make people like you. These things are not at all. I mean, absolutely, right? Correlation is not causation. Meaning that just because things happen together, right? Like I have an umbrella in my hand, it's open and it's raining, doesn't mean that those things are related and one causing the other. Especially with the umbrella causing the rain. It may be that when it rains, some people then use umbrellas. But you have no logic with the argument going the other way. That I open an umbrella and it rains. And this is where the fundamental logic is flawed. And it's the same thing with being liked. What does it mean if somebody likes me? Go to on our show page, on our Stone of Solutions, we have a couple of definitions for you. I always love going to the dictionary, and you know this if you were part of many of our programs, because I'm not making this stuff up. It's not debatable what the word means, right? It could be debatable how the word's used. It could be debatable how the word's interpreted, but we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to limit any ambiguity. All right, so in my dictionary definition of like, what does it say? It says to enjoy something, to get pleasure from something, to regard something in a favorable way, to feel affection. Ooh, to feel affection for someone. To enjoy being with someone. Oh, is that all of this is, oh my goodness, it's like a romance novel. Just reading the definition, right? I'm enjoying something. I'm getting pleasure from something. Or a cooking show with delicious food, right? I'm enjoying it. I'm getting pleasure from it. I regard it in a favorable way. You ever watch those cooking shows sometimes? I try not to do this because I know if I'm hungry, there's some cooking shows that are like types of food that I like, right? Or maybe the host and the type of food, I really like them. And if I watch that show and I'm hungry and, I know what's going to happen, I literally, my mouth, right, start to salivate. It looks so good. I'd enjoy that in a favorable way, eating that, right? Okay. Our dictionary definition says to feel affection for someone, to enjoy being with someone. Oh, like I said, it's a romance novel, it's a cooking show, it's awesome, right? It's just so great, all of this. Here's the deal, though. When we're talking about people, right? So liking a person, right? I feel affection for them. I enjoy being with them. What makes us like a person? In general, there's research that shows us that we tend to like people who are like us. Right? So if I have a certain sense of humor and I meet somebody else, they have a similar sense of humor, in many instances, I will find that favorable. I have affection for them. I will enjoy being with them because they'll get my jokes and I'll get their jokes. Okay. That's not anything I don't think most people would argue about. Here's the catch. You like people who are like you. Cool. So if I love rock climbing and I meet somebody who likes rock climbing, it's like, wow, rock climbing. I know for myself, I just went to some dinner parties recently. I met a lot of new people, and I love dinner parties. And, I have my beloved, my little dogs. And when I meet someone new, and if they have a dog, that's something immediately I want to talk about. What kind of dog? How old is your dog? If somebody has the same type of dog that I have, the same breed, often then that's even more exciting, right? Oh, you also have a Pomeranian? Okay. So this isn't anything that we don't know just as humans, right? Of any age, really. And so the problem, though, if you want to be liked, you have no control over it because people like you if you're like them. Now, there are people, and especially as teens and adolescents, you'll see this. There are people who figure this out because, like I said, most humans get this, and by really early ages, right? Like toddlers get this. To some degree, infants at some levels. I love child development and human development classes and taking quite a few over the years because it obviously relates to learning and but it also relates to lots of other things I'm fascinated about. So there are people who figure out, oh, okay, people like me if I'm like them, right? So what people will do, especially you'll see more of this, like I said, during the teen and preteen and adolescent years, is what people will sort of be shapeshifters, right? Because they know that if they're like the other person likes them back. So then they'll just pretend. So it's not true, right? So it's not like a legitimate thing where, oh, I have a chihuahua, you have a chihuahua, or I love rock climbing, you love rock climbing. It's not that. What they'll do is they'll just lie, right? So because they want people to like them. So they go out and they're like, oh, you love motorcycles, so do I. What a coincidence! Or you like that music? Oh, I love that music too. Or that's your favorite movie? That's my favorite movie. Or I love that. They're lying. And as I said, often it's in that period of human development when we're trying to define who we are, and it's very challenging for all of us. This show, obviously we're all adults, but think back to being 12, 11, 13. These are tough years for anybody. I don't care who you are, where you were in the world, what kind of background you came from, if you immense wealth or extreme deprivation. It's tough. It's just tough being at that age because you're trying to figure out, who am I? And you're going through that really difficult period of trying to, you got other 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds. Who am I? Who are they? Do they like me? Do they not like me? Popularity. And this thing where the person will lie. It's what it is. It's a lie. Because you really don't like that music. You just wanted that person to like you so much. And I did this. I'm sitting here thinking right now of, oh my goodness. Right? And part of it for me was I moved around the world a lot. My family moved a lot due to my the work one of my parents. So I was always in a new school. And the fastest way in a new school, when you're in a new town, new part of the world, new school, you got to learn all of this, the culture, what's going on with everybody, what people will do in this place. The easiest way to sort of shortcut is to just say whatever it is they'd say. So, if I'm somewhere and I've never lived in that place, but people there, like to do a certain type of, I don't know, dancing, then I would say that I liked it, even though I didn't even know what it was necessarily, right? And that was a lie. And part of this is, again, adolescents trying to figure out who we are, right? Because I actually don't know a lot as a 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old because I've not lived long. So I'm still testing, to see who I am and what I really like. But the other part of it is it's a very intense hormonal period, obviously, and we really want to fit in. All right. How is it perceived when somebody lies and does this? Just think back, even if you weren't like me, where you can't, where you think, I never did that, right? Okay, but I know you knew other people who did it, or I know you saw other people doing this, because this is a universal human situation. How do people perceive that person who lied? Well, you and I know, not well, very poorly, right? Especially when they find out, well, you really don't like that music, you really don't like rock climbing, and now they're mad at you. So maybe they didn't have any feeling towards you probably before. They may not even have known who you were. And then you lie to try to trick them into liking you, right? And now that they find out that that was a lie, now they definitely have a position on how they feel about you and they do not like you. So this does not work. And the reason it doesn't work is because you cannot render yourself so meaningless and so shapeless that you can just be all things to all people. So you can't go out and say, oh my goodness, I love fast music and that's my favorite. Oh, I love slow music and that's my favorite. Oh, I love rock climbing. Oh, I'm anti-rock climbing. Oh, I love cats. Oh, I hate cats. Oh, I mean, you can't, it's not even logical, right? Because you're contradicting yourself at some point really quickly, right? Because you want everybody to like you. And there's going to be some people that love, ferrets and other people that don't like ferrets at all. What do? Well, you lie to them, both of them, right? You say to the one who loves ferrets, I love ferrets. You say to the one that hates ferrets, I hate ferrets. And then you think you're going to get away with this, and it doesn't last. And then people talk about people, quote, behind their back, right? Meaning that they're not saying it to your face, but they'll go discuss you when you're not present. And what makes them really mad is they'll, quote, catch you in these lies. She told me she loves ferrets. She told me she hates them. She lied to us. See? Now there's something that they now have in common, right? That they both don't like you. Liking is something that the other person either gives or withholds entirely. And it's based on how they feel. So if I like a certain food on some of those cooking shows, and I know the ones not to watch when I'm hungry, there are other cooking shows with foods I don't like at all. I could watch that show all day. I'll never be hungry because I don't even like to eat that stuff. And the point is that I decided that I could. Now, marketers, and this is sales, and we talk about this in our sales training. We have one of our video shows, the silent sales technique, and we have very specific things that we do in our sales process because marketers are trying to make you like stuff, right? That's what marketing is to some degree. Part of marketing is they're trying to communicate and tell you that they exist, right? Like our product, our service exists. A lot of times you don't even know, right? And the other part of it is they are trying to have some influence that you'll view their item, their service favorably. Okay. But you cannot take somebody and change the core of them. So it might be that someone really is stunned by awesome marketing, right? Maybe it's like, oh, I never liked that food. Every time I eat that food, I don't like it. But that marketing was awesome, so I'll try it again. That may happen. But if it's the same food, and it's the same situation with the taste buds and the person isn't changed, then they're probably not going to like it again. Even if you could get them to try it again, it's probably going to be the same outcome. You can't sustain it. So as we're not 11 or 12 years old, as we've lived longer, we've defined ourselves, right? We have a better sense of who we are, what we like, what makes us happy, things of that nature. So the liking, if I like you, if you like me as friends, that's up to you if you like me. It's up to me if I like you. What tends to happen is we'll have shared interests, right? Because I like people who are more like me. And the more things that we may have in common, what will tend to happen is if we also then enjoy each other's company, over time, the things that we totally disagree on, and everybody has these, will diminish in importance. We're not going to argue about the stuff that we don't get along on because there's these other more important issues that we care about, that we have in common. And then over time, if you really care about someone, then, you understand that, hey, everybody has things you're going to agree to disagree on, but that's not going to negatively impact the overall positive relationship where you care about somebody. I cannot make you like me, and you cannot make me like you. And we are not going to lie and pretend that we like something just because we try to make someone like us, because it doesn't work. And we, just like the kid who does that at 12 years old, is not well received. It's not going to work at 32. Okay, what's the difference between being liked and respected? Being respected, now this is my argument. My argument is that intrinsically, humans, just because we're humans, we exist, then we are respected. Just because you're human, then I respect you. Now, other people will make this argument that you have to earn respect. I do not believe in that because it's not logical. Let's look at the definition on the show page. So when you come to the show page, you'll see definition of respect. What does the dictionary say? Okay, respect, a feeling of admiring someone or something that is good, valuable, important, etc. A feeling or understanding that someone or something is important, serious, etc., and should be treated in an appropriate way. A particular way of thinking about or looking at something. Okay, so the second part of the definition is what I'm talking about, that humans intrinsically have value. The second part of the definition says a feeling or understanding that someone or something is important. serious, etc. It should be treated in an appropriate way. I perceive, and I I was going to say that some of the founding documents in the states in the U.S. have this concept, right? All men. Now I'm going to expand that to interpret that as all human are created equal. I believe we are equal. We are all equal. And so because of that, it means I have to treat people in an appropriate way with this concept of showing them that you're equal, that you have value, and that you are important just because you exist. This is my interpretation. So because of that, then I need to respect that, right? And listen and speak and behave in a way. Now, I don't do this 100% of the time because everyone has bad days and behaves in ways that are, not normal for their personality and situation. It may be that I'm sick, so maybe because I was sick I was rude to somebody. It may be that I was had something bad happen in my life that was really bad, and it impacted, so I was not polite as I normally am. Maybe I ended a call sooner than anticipated with a friend or something. So I have my days, you have your days. These other things can happen. Maybe we're physically not well, maybe something's going on, whatever. But that's what we strive for, and that's sort of our status quo behavior pattern, is that, hey, they're a human, so I'm going to treat them in an appropriate way, right? Now, if you add on top of that, so let's go to my two arguments I make about managers, right? We're at work, we're managers, and then we're outside of work, because it's easier, I think, for people sometimes to understand the scenarios outside of work, because we all have experienced those, and we may not all have been managers or even team members, right? So when you ask, should children respect adults? I say yes. I say children should respect children and should respect adults. So certainly in the cultures I was brought up in as a child, just because the person exists, right, and they're an adult. So as a child speaking to another child, I would use first names, and I may use slang or something. When I'm speaking to an adult, especially the culture I was brought up in, children don't speak to adults the same way with familiarity. I couldn't even imagine, let's say I was visiting my great aunt or my grandfather or my grandmother, and they're, we're spending time with a friend, which was one of the favorite memories I have of spending time with my grandparents, all of whom are no longer alive, but they're friends. How great so many of their friends were, and how long they had some of these friendships. I would never, I can't even today, if everyone was still alive, and even when some of my grandparents were still around when I was an adult, I still didn't imagine, and never would have, and did not think of them, I'm going to call them by their first name, because they're the adult, or they're a much older adult. And so as a child, I would refer to them as, Mr., whatever their last name is, or Miss, whatever their last name is. You don't speak to them as if they're your same age, because they're adults. Now, different cultures have different things. That's just one way that I was provided structure to understand and to remember. You treat people in the appropriate way, and that people who are adults, you're going to have a certain amount of behavior that's going to be expected, and by the way that you call them, what name you use, or what title, or how you speak to them, and this is really something you'll see in different cultures in different ways, but it helps children then to begin to understand both the responsibility of being an adult, right, that's coming down the road in the future, but also the awesome benefits of being an adult, right? And I quote, you look up to adults, and so a lot of these things are helpful. I don't have to know them, right? It's my grandfather's friend. I don't know them necessarily, right? I may have just met them, They don't have to earn anything to be respected. Are you serious? They're just immediately respected. Now, here's the thing. You don't earn respect, but you sustain it. And they do have that in the show notes. And what I mean is they automatically have the respect just because they exist. Now, the key is, are they going to sustain that? Or are they going to put themselves in a situation where they do things that then mean that we're not going to have a relationship at all, right? Sometimes there are adults who are in positions of leadership, and we're not going to go into detail at all, but they'll do things to children that they were entrusted with leadership, and maybe they'll be abusive, maybe they'll be criminal acts. Unfortunately, all around our planet, there's sexual abuse and all kind of awful things that happen to people. So when that happens, then you may not call them by their first name, but you're definitely not going to have a child around that person, right? Because that individual has not sustained that respect, and especially if something happened where they were fired from that teaching job, or they were in jail for whatever they did. So, which is what's supposed to happen, right? You don't let them be anywhere near a leadership position, because they, in addition to being unable to lead, then obviously they're doing things that are abusive, destructive, or maybe even criminal. So my point is simply this: respect is there; it's just there automatically. The question is it sustained? The problem for many people who are not management magicians is they don't understand that you cannot control if you're liked. And most of the time, if somebody's pretending that they like you, remember earlier we talked about the teenager who goes around, oh, I love ferrets. It's one group of people they want to be friends with, and goes to another group of people they want to be friends with that are peers, says, oh, I can't stand ferrets, right? And and how nobody respects that, right? And they're viewed unfavorably. What many employees will do at work, because they know that person is making decisions that will impact them. If that manager or supervisor is the one that's going to sign off on a pay raise, right? They're totally going to do everything in their power to try to manipulate that feeling. And this is something we talk about in our Management Magician series, and our other HR series, and some of our other series. We did a show on in our Satisfaction Saturation series, which is what happens to people after you surpass your goals. We said the challenge that you can get in a situation where everybody tells you what you want to hear. So please check that show out if you haven't, because the reason they tell you what you want to hear is because you have power. So I said at work, if your manager signs off on the bonus or the pay raise, then yeah, you have power. If you're in a family and you're the grandmother, and you're in charge of the family wealth, who gets what, then it's often people are gonna, they're really nice to you because they want the money. So they're not telling you what you want to hear because they're trying to manipulate you to feel favorable so that you'll give them promotion or give them the family wealth. I mean, that's what this is about. And so it puts you in a position where you're not getting good information, you can't make really good decisions, and everybody's pretending around you. And in that show, we talk about why they're doing that, and we talk about the role you play in that and how to stop that. Okay. People inherently have respect. The key is, are they going to sustain it, or is something going to happen where they're not going to be able to be a leader at all, right? Because of their behavior. The beauty of this is we inherently just already have the respect. It's already in us and with us. We don't have to do anything. That's great, right? Easy. It's already here. Love it. All I got to do is sustain it. How do you sustain it? 3 C's that I've been talking about since the late 90s in my training and education and speaking programs. And here they are again. Consistency, confidentiality, and compliance. Consistency, confidentiality, and compliance. That is how you sustain respect. Consistency. You don't play favorites. Everybody gets the same rule, including you. And that people know what to expect. Surprise is not awesome. Unless it is that rare good surprise. Oh, it's my birthday. Yay. Oh, I'm salesperson of the quarter. Yay. Okay. But hey, surprise, I'm not going to, follow through on the rule about being on time to the office. Surprise. It doesn't matter what your sales were. I don't really care. I'm not going to even write you up for nomination for salesperson of the month. Surprise. Today I'm not feeling like I'm having a super awesome day, so I'm going to sit in my office and cry and roll around on the floor crying and weeping and make you all watch this and listen to this at work. Surprise. No, hey. Consistency. And again, yes, I have bad days, you have bad days. If it's a really, really horrible, awful situation, there may be a situation where you don't need to be around other people, you know? And when we talk about health issues, many of what we hear from the medical professionals is, if you're really ill and you're around other people, and some people will think, I'm not going to miss it. I got to be there. Right. And I'm not talking about people who don't have the ability. Especially in the States, there's there are millions and millions of people where if you don't come to work, then you don't get paid. And in fact, in some jobs, you don't come to work, you can be fired. Right. So I'm not talking about that, because then of course it makes sense logically, even though it's hurting other people's health. Because when you go around other people and you're sick, then unfortunately what can happen with many types of illnesses is then other people become ill. And not just your coworkers, but maybe even a customer or a client. Nobody wants that, which is why hopefully there'll be there've been some changes in the laws and the culture, and hopefully there'll be more, because it hurts everybody when that happens. But if you have the ability to not go in and not lose your job, then don't do it, right? People, and they tell you that, like, take your sick day because you're sick. And you're not going to be able to get much done because you're sick. And the other thing is you distract and potentially also harm other people if it's something that could be communicable to them. So there may be a day where something's going on, and that means, hey, I'm not going to go there and distract other people and potentially harm them by making them sick. I'm going to go ahead and take this day and be not around them. Maybe I could do a little bit of work remotely, but if I'm under medication or something, I'm not at my best, I'm probably not going to have good work quality. And this is us being responsible for ourselves, which we talk about in so many programs. Consistency, confidentiality, compliance. Confidentiality is what it sounds like. If somebody tells you something, it's in confidence, and you're going to assume that what they tell you is in confidence. There's nothing worse than, you're a little kid and there's an adult, they're, in leading some youth group, and you go to them and talk to them about something, and then they went and told, the other child that you were sharing some of your feelings about. And that destroys your trust. Now, obviously, there's some things that you tell people who are in leadership positions, they have to report. Right? So if you tell somebody about something that's a crime, somebody, assaulted you or hurt you physically, or, stole from you, or, sexually abused you, then of course you'd have to that's the law, right? I have to report that so I keep you safe. The same thing at work, right? You go to your manager and you tell them about something that somebody stole, or somebody, beat you up, or somebody, lied and fraudulently submitted a form to a client. Then my goodness, those are bad acts that are probably criminal and civil violations. Criminal laws are ones you can be punished by going to jail or prison. In civil laws, you've done something bad, but the punishment is usually to money. They're going to take money away from you, or stop you from being able to do that thing. Right? They can enjoin you. They can stop you from being able to do that. Okay, so yeah, those types of things, mandatory reporting, we get it. But all the other stuff, I go to my manager and I say, I've been so scared. It's a new project, and I've never had a project like this, and I'm just frightened. Do you have any ideas, or is there anything that you'd recommend for me? Are there like a leadership or management book or project management course or anything like that? If you went and told your manager that, I told my manager that, and then I went back to work a few days later, and people in the snack room were saying, "Oh, are you frightened? Are you scared of getting a snack? Are you scared, like you're scared to do the project?" I would be devastated. Really? I went to my manager, the person who I was seeking help from, thinking maybe they'd tell me, "Oh yeah, let me send you a link to a great, project management program, or a great book that I read, or whatever, or tell me an anecdote about how they handled their first big project." And instead they went and talked about this to other people that are peers and made fun of me. That kills your entire trust. So confidence, confidentiality, confidence also, which is a whole nother program. But confidentiality is imperative. Consistency, confidentiality, compliance. Compliance with what? Whatever the rule was. If it's an organization, you often have all the rules written down, your handbook, policy, procedure, manual, and you have all these laws you have to follow. Outside of work, you have all these laws you have to follow, and you have all of your informal rules. Some people actually write the rules. They'll be like house rules, right? They'll write them down. A lot of write them and they'll put them on the refrigerator. Here are the house rules, right? This is how we do laundry, we make our beds, or whatever. Some places they're not written down, but everybody knows because that's what we told you. There's verbal, but here's how we do stuff. That's how we do things at this place. At school, in a classroom with children, teachers will write the rules down, right? Sometimes they'll just tell them, but I need to give you structure. And the deal is, I have to follow it. I, as the leader, have to be in compliance with it, and I have to make sure everybody else is. Right? Because the first time that you have a rule and then somebody breaks the rule and then the leader does nothing, it teaches everybody else that the rule doesn't exist. And that the only reason that they're being told to follow the rules because they're not favorites. And now you have dysfunction, you have animosity, you have no teamwork, you have distrust, and the whole thing's falling apart. It won't work if the 3Cs aren't adhered to. The 3Cs also, though, just automatically sustain the respect that you inherently had. See how easy this is? When I said confidence, right? When I was also talking about confidentiality, I do have a couple of shows I'd like you to revisit, and I put this on the show notes page. One is we did a show, and it was in our Help Situation Spotlight series. It looks like it was episode 136. That show was I'm addicted to approval from everyone. So for people who have the confidence, low self-esteem problems, I seek approval. That shows to address that part, because if you're addicted to approval, you are unable to lead anyone anywhere ever, because you can't lead yourself. Another show that I'd also refer you to is one in our Management Magician series. It was episode 173, and that show was entitled, "Are Your Insecurities and Fears Preventing Employee Empowerment?" Really important show. Again, the self-confidence issues, insecurity and fear of the manager, and how that impacts the employees. Okay, so obviously we cannot do my 3Cs, consistency, confidentiality, and compliance, if I have this addiction to approval, or if I have insecurities and fears that are eroding my ability to have any belief in myself. So, we have to handle ourselves first, where we have all of our foundation with how we view ourselves, right? And then you can apply the 3Cs, and boom, the respect that you already automatically had, you don't have to do anything. It just is sustained. One of the most wonderful things I've loved about my work, my career, is that on many occasions, especially as a lawyer, where somebody would tell me, right, that they didn't really like me. And in fact, I've had some, and especially when I first started, so in the 1990s, when I first started my law practice, my own company, I'd have clients, especially clients who would be a little bit older, from a different generation, who would say things to me that were really not at all appropriate about either my gender or color or age or any appearance or anything else, right? But basically what they would say was, "I don't like such and such about you," right? But you do a great job. And to me, that's the core of what you should be understanding, how life works. There may be people who can't stand you, and they may, since they don't have any of these things where, we have things in common, we have so many things in common, we're going to disagree on the other things. You may not have really anything in common. You may not like the same food. You may not like the same music. You may not have the same politics or religion. You may not be the same age. You may not be the same gender identity. You may not share really much at all, other than we're humans. And most people want the best that they're able to obtain. They want the best service. They want the best product, right? And if you're able to provide that, even though they may not have all these things in common with you individually, where you're going to be new best friends, if your work is excellent, sometimes, I hope it happens very rarely now, but it does. People will tell you, "I don't like it. I don't like you, but you do a really good job." Great. This is exactly what this entire topic is about. I'm not liked. Because I can't control it. And unless you're, I'm going to mention this. The thing that gets people in trouble, especially in countries that have laws that say you have to hire people based on their skills, right? What they can do. And you're not allowed to hire people based on what they are, right? Like their gender identity, age, color, religion. And many countries have these laws. What the reason for the law is what I just said. Most people, when I spend money, when I'm hiring a plumber, an electrician, or whatever, I want somebody that can do it. I want the best. Not, and it depends on how much money I can spend and people's schedule, but I want the best that I'm able to under the circumstances of my timeline and my budget, because I want this thing fixed. I want my plumbing fixed or my electricity fixed. I don't care the gender of the person. I don't care the age. I don't care their religion. I mean, in most parts of the world, you don't even know this stuff, right? I don't care about their, how they vote. I don't care about what music they like. I don't care if they like rock climbing. I don't care if they love, turtles. Like, I don't care. I just want I want their skills to solve my problem. And so, and what gets people in trouble in those systems where you have these laws is because they do exactly what you're not supposed to in the show topic. They run around wanting to surround themselves with people who they like. So they will literally hire people. Oh, I really like them. They were great in that interview. Yeah, because they laughed at your jokes. They told you they loved the same music you did. What a coincidence. You went to the same school. You share the same, favorite movie. And again, a lot of the times those are lies that people do in an interview because they know how to manipulate people. So it hurts everybody. But the worst thing is you're not even allowed to, in many parts of the world, use that stuff in making a decision about you're going to hire somebody. Who cares? Who cares that you want to be new best friends with them and you guys like the same music? Even if it's true. What does it have to do when somebody calls your business to hire a plumber? Do you think they care? Because I know, you and I know, they don't. So what gets people in legal trouble is when they go down this path of the liking thing. And they hire people based on who they like and don't like. And they want to promote people based on who they like and they don't like. And then they violate, 15 different laws while they're doing this, right? Because I like people who are like me. They're around my age. And they have the same gender, identity, and expression. And, they dress the same way that I do. And with the same kind of, we like the favorites. We have the same shoes. And we, have the same religion and all this kind of stuff. When you do this, because of course now none of that has anything to do with their job, right? And whether or not they're going to be the best plumber or the best teacher or the best, choir leader or the best youth minister. None of that has anything to do with their job. It's just that you like them. And this is so important, which is why I said this is one of the most exciting things I train on. One, because I always get really excited about this for so many reasons. One, when I'm the one that's purchasing the good or service, I'm angry when somebody, comes to fix my plumbing and they don't know how to do it. And if it turned out that person was hired because, they like the same music as the boss of the place, I'd be even angrier. Are you serious? You wasted my time and my money, and you were unable to fix my problem just because you guys want to be buddies? I mean, that's disservice. Borderline fraud, right? So I don't like it when I'm the one that's buying, right? I go to a restaurant and I get, and the person there that's, the staff member, the wait staff, is awful. They took the wrong order. They brought me something I didn't order. I was sitting there thirsty. Nobody ever came to help refill my drink. And maybe it's because, they were hired because somebody likes them. And they hang out together and they go, skiing. Well, great for that. But what's that? But they can't even do the job. And I'm suffering and I'm the one that's spending my money and my time. So we don't like it on that end. We definitely don't like it when we're the one that's applying for a job, right? Because I'm not going to be hired even though I absolutely am the best plumber because this other person, went to the same school that you did and played, on the hockey team that you did. Really? So it's unfair. The core problem is it prevents you from having the most successful business or service, which hurts the whole society financially, right? Because I can't get good service because of all the silliness. You want to hire somebody that you like. You're not the best one, not even somebody that's competent, but just somebody that you like hanging out with. And then what happens is societies write these laws because it hurts the whole society. So you have to force people. This shouldn't happen. But you have to force people and say, look, you got to go get people to do work stuff based on the work stuff. You can't go do it based on this other stuff about how much you like each other and your new best friends, or maybe you're romantically in love. Who knows? But you can't. That's not related to the job. You got to hire people for the job about the job stuff. What kind of plumbing skills do they have? And so that's this is the core problem. And like I said, so many of the different programs I do, which is why I keep coming at it from different angles. But it's just it does boggle the mind how this happens. Because when you're the one that's on the receiving end, right? You go to the service, right? You hired the plumber, you went to the restaurant, so the people, the dry cleaner lost your clothes. You're mad. And your first thing is like, really, these people are incompetent. Well, yeah, they probably are because they were hired because they weren't hired for their skills. They were hired because somebody likes them. That's good for them to be friends or romantic partners. What's that going to do for you? Your dry cleaning's lost. You haven't even been able to eat the food you ordered, that was brought to you cold. You're mad. So let's just start with that and come back to that. Then, of course, think about the other thing is when it's you going to apply for a contract or for a job and you're not hired and you are the best qualified because somebody likes somebody else. That makes you mad. The problem that we have to be very honest about, the person who's doing the hiring is the one that has the hardest job because your natural inclination is to want to hire people who you like. You just want to be around people that you like. And you have to absolutely, and this has to be like, this is discipline, right? You have to force yourself through repeated consistency, right? To not use those factors. And you have to look at the work. Now, as we move to different types of work because of technology and societal changes with distributed workforces, a lot of this is just being impacted by that in a positive way, right? Because if I'm sitting in an office with somebody, 9 hours a day, people will lie, they're lies, they're rationalizations, but at least they're somewhat logical. So some people will say, well, I know I only hired them because I like them so much, but I mean, you're just in we're in that office all day. Okay. It's wrong, but at least they have some kind of factual lie they're telling themselves and everybody else that at least, I guess you could argue, because people, and little things become big things, right? When you're in an office. So some people, and I've done training on all this stuff, right? So somebody says, hey, they like, metal, heavy metal music, and I like, classical, music, and they want to play heavy metal music at work, and I have to listen to that for 9 hours, and I hate it. Okay. But then I go do a training program, and we work through about, what we're going to do is a solution. Either we're going to, take turns with the music so everybody equally gets to share, or then we're not going to do music at all, or maybe we'll have an option for people to use headphones, or we're going to come up with a solution, right? But we're not going to force everybody to listen to this music. It's not related to the job and make people, not able to enjoy their work environment. So we're talking about fairness in the environment. When people work in distributed teams, you don't even have that. That's a lie. But you don't even have that lie to hang your head on because they're, in a distributed virtual or on-site in a different location. So what does it matter? You don't even hear their music. My point simply is that it's when you're the one on the receiving end of this, it's easy because you're mad, right? I just want the best. I want the best dry cleaner, the best plumber, the best architect, the best taxi driver. Like, you're just mad, right? This taxi driver doesn't know where they're going. Oh, right? How much? Does that make you angry? You're like, that always drives me, because I'm in a taxi because I don't live in that place, right? And if the taxi driver's lost and I'm lost, especially before we had the smartphone, GPS technology with maps you can have now all over the world, that's new, okay? That just makes you furious, right? So, and when you're on the receiving end, it's so easy, right? Like, just hire qualified people that know how to drive a taxi and know where they're going. Just hire qualified people that know how to, be a wait staff at the restaurant. It's so easy to see it. Again, because you're not having to fight the bias, right? You're not having to fight it at all. You don't really care most of the time because you're not having some in-depth relationship with them. You just want your food or your dry cleaning. Or you just want to get the taxi, get in it, and get out safely, right? Where you were supposed to go as quickly as possible. So, as safely as possible. So it's the hiring person who has to fight against that natural inclination to want to, go to this emotional place and make new best friends with people or, fall in love or whatever. And it's not hard if they're focused on the job. And they just remember, like, this isn't about me. This isn't my personal life. This isn't me trying to find the person I want to go, rock climbing with next weekend. This is about the work. It's much easier when you just see it like that. Then you can focus on the work. And you remember when you hire the people who are qualified and competent, and then you have the processes in place for evaluation and mentoring and coaching and employee development, then they succeed as the manager. All of that wonderful positive success benefits you, right? And because they're succeeding and feeling respected, because they are being respected, right? Even everything from the music and all this kind of stuff, everybody's treated fairly, right? You're not playing favorites. then it does look like it's magic from the outside because the team works well, people get it done, they don't leave, right? You have high retention, your service is better. I will go to a dry cleaner, even if the people weren't, they didn't seem like they're going to be my new best friend, but they are really good. Like my cleaning's never lost versus the other place I may go to and the people are so awesome and friendly and we could be new best friends, but they keep losing my cleaning. Where am I going to go? I'm going to take my dollars and go to the other place. That's just the nature of us as humans because I need to get that stuff done. It's work. I may say to the other people, "Hey, I'll socialize with you. We can be friends, but we can't. But I can't be your customer because you don't. Your business skills aren't what they need to be." And a lot of times when I work with small businesses and startups, uh, and people who aspire to be entrepreneurs, this is what kills their whole operation. They just didn't see it, and they thought, "Well, everybody was so nice to me." And I said, "Yeah, they were nice to you. Well, they took their business somewhere else. Being nice to you and 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 giving you their business are two different things. It's the same concept of going outside, it's not raining, but I open my umbrella and then I start complaining, why isn't it raining? Because these aren't related. And how nice and friendly you are while you bring them, cold food at your restaurant or you lose their dry cleaning, the light niceness thing is worth nothing at that point because you're not able to do the job. Now, if you could do the job and people were nice, that would be like nice, uh, you know, a cherry on top. But but and you can't have it where they do the job okay, but they're mean, right? Maybe they don't lose my dry cleaning, but they yell at me when I go in there. Well, I'm also going to take my business somewhere else too. As soon as I can find another competent place where they're not doing anything abusive or disrespectful, and they're able to do the job, right? This is so simple, and yet this basic concept of liked versus respected is the number one most difficult thing for people to accept. My analysis of, like I said, I'm in my second decade doing this now, and doing this all over the world, is that the people who aren't healthy enough psychologically, emotionally, they're just caught up in their own narrative, right? Because they don't accept themselves, they don't like themselves, they seek approval, they're insecure, they're fearful, and all this kind of stuff. So they're unable to they can't lead themselves. That's why they're unable to lead anybody else. Which is why I said at the outset, if you feel like you have to be liked by other people, don't lead anything. And we all know the nightmare and disaster we see when you see an adult out, with their grandchildren at the mall, and the grandchild is screaming and yelling and hitting them, and they're standing there, I don't know what to do. Really? You're an adult. The reason that little child's acting like that is because you taught them that's acceptable, right? The answer isn't you scream and yell back at them. I've seen that, which is but I've seen that with managers, especially when I took cases as a lawyer, because you have somebody's in management position, they're unable to lead because they have insecurity and all this kind of stuff, and so they will literally get into screaming matches with their own team members, just like a grandparent with a scream match with a 4-year-old. I mean, you talk about just awful. Not only do you have the inability to lead yourself, you let other people bait you, which is easy, right? Because you're insecure. And then you completely humiliate and degrade yourself for all time, right? By getting into that screaming and yelling, and it's so sad. All you have to do is be a calm leader, calm, consistent, and you give the consequence. Everybody knew before if a grandparent took the 4-year-old out before the 4-year-old left, they knew because they taught them. If you don't behave appropriately and you get out there and throw a temper tantrum, then we're just going to leave them all. You're not going to get any of the things you plan to do. It's going to be sad, but that's the consequence. And then you teach them. They do, because everybody tests limits, right? So they'll do it the first time. The grandparent, I'm sorry that this happened. We immediately, right now, right? We're leaving them all. So later the child, we're not going to go back. We're not going back because you did that. We talked about before we went there, we're going to use our inside voice. We talked about what we were going to do, and then you behaved. When you yelled and screamed and fell on the floor, then we immediately had to leave. And that's what we talked about before, didn't we? We did. Okay. You just teach people. This is so easy. I want to mention this. Leadership is lasting. When it's set up correctly, right? So I believe in me, feel good about myself, I'm healthy, woo, I'm ready to lead. All right, now I'm out there, hire the best qualified people, getting it done. Great things are happening, right? Because they individually are doing well, collectively we're doing well. It makes me look good. Our customers and clients are happy. If I have a boss, they're happy. This is a win-win. My life is easy. People come to me because they trust me, because they know that I don't play favorites, because they know that I keep things, in confidence. And it runs like a well-oiled machine. It just runs itself. The most important part is to be vigilant, right? And always continue to check in with your team members and build more knowledge from them about what their individual dreams are. See about providing enhanced opportunities for education or skills or certifications or promotions or whatever. And make sure nobody new comes into your department without understanding exactly what's expected, and you immediately, the first time they misbehave, right, just like the toddler at the mall, you give the consequence and you get them out of there, because one person, one bad behavior person will ruin a whole awesome unit. But that only happens though if the leadership like just gives up and stops leading, or that doesn't really happen. Very rarely that does, but usually something happened in that person's life, right? Maybe there's a traumatic death in their life or divorce or something, and that's why they weren't able to really be themselves at work. But what will happen more frequently, you had a really talented management magician, and then they moved. They went to a different department or area or whatever, or somewhere else. The person that comes in behind them is not a management magician, right? And then the whole department falls apart. And that can happen really quickly. So the leadership is lasting and it's easy, right? Being liked is transitory. That's why it's so hard. Because maybe I liked that food one day, I don't like it now. I don't know why, I just don't like it anymore. Maybe I used to like wearing, that one dress. I don't like wearing it anymore. Maybe I used to like, rock climbing. Now I don't like it. Maybe I used to like that person. Now I don't like them. See, that's transitory. And your personal life, that's why your personal life is so, exhilarating. Because there's always the unknown. What's going to happen? I don't know. In your work, it's not scary like that. Because in your work, when it's set up like it's supposed to be, it's stable. Right? You know what what's expected of you. You know what you need to work on to improve. You know what the potential benefits would be down the road, and so it's not a roller coaster. I went in on Monday. The boss liked me. It was a good day. I went in on Wednesday. The boss hated me and screamed at me for 3 hours. I went in on Friday, and the boss, accused me of being a thief. I mean, that kind of roller coaster is why we did, like I said, check out those other shows, Managers with Fears and Insecurities. But that's where you also get what they call in many parts of the world a hostile work environment, right? Because you're being emotionally abused for no reason. And that's not at all what it's supposed to be. I said it's supposed to be stable. It's supposed to be a stable, safe environment so I can do my work. It's the same thing, again, with like the example of a little child, in school. The adult teacher isn't supposed to make that little child's life a nightmare. They're supposed to come in and have that structure. They know what we're supposed to do. This on Tuesday we're gonna, do story time, and not have it where they came in on Thursday and the teacher didn't like them and screamed at them and called them names and said they were idiot, and then on Friday, told them they're the stupidest student in the history of the universe. When that happens, it breaks it just breaks the foundations of society. It destroys children when that happens from an adult. It teaches them that they're not safe in their school. Of course, obviously, it's a violation of the expectations and behavioral requirements for a teacher. So they should, of course, be immediately terminated, never hired anywhere else unless they're able to go through some behavioral modification and learn how to address these core issues. But and imagine how that parent would feel, right? Now we have more of this technology again. People record things. Oh my goodness, there's the teacher screaming at my child and calling them an idiot. It breaks your heart. You trusted them to lead your child and let your child be safe in a learning environment. At work, we trust people to be able to work in a safe environment. If you focus on being liked, you're not in a safe environment because you're at the whims of these transitory feelings. And you have no ability to influence whether or not you're actually liked. You can manipulate situations for short periods of time and lie, right? Oh, I love that music too. You really don't. But that's not going to work long term. And as we close this show, when you go to the show notes, you'll see that I put a link on there to an article from Inc. magazine, right? A business magazine. And the article is 7 Ways to Earn Respect as a Leader. Now, I've already shared with you that I don't believe that you earn respect at all. I believe you already have it. It's just automatically there. It's intrinsic. You don't have to do anything. Just exist. And all you have to do is sustain it. And we talked about how you do that with my 3 C's: consistency, confidentiality, and compliance. But the article actually was, it's a little short article, and it had some other, ideas that I thought might be helpful. So check that out. I put that link down there. And I also put a link to the show that we did in this series, Management Magician series, episode 127. And that was, how much of a leader does a manager need to be? And so we addressed that question, which is, of course, imperative, because this shows Management Magicians, but I'm talking about leadership. So we need to make sure you're clear on why I'm talking about that. And I do hope this was thought provoking. Honestly, this is work. So, just like your customer doesn't need to know if the electrician loves their same favorite movie, who cares? It's the same thing with the rest of this stuff. Are they really good at their job? That's what matters. Are you good at your job? Okay, well, that's what you have in common. And that's a really important thing. All the other stuff about maybe you like different music and you're from different parts of the world and you're, different colors or who cares? You've got a big thing in common, which is the work. So talk about that and enjoy it. And then in your real life, get out there and worry about who likes you. And spend all your time in your real personal life, except for when you're leading. Remember, if you're leading a group in your personal life, then you have to follow this structure, right? We talked about that throughout this entire program. But if you're, dating, if you're trying to see if you want to hang out with these people and have them, be in your bowling club, or spend time barbecuing together, or go to the football game together, or whatever, then that's just a social thing. You're not leading it. You're just hanging out. You're just living, right? So when you're doing that, that's where you put all this. That's where you put all your stuff. I hope they like me. I wonder if they liked me. All that kind of good stuff. That's your place. You do that. That's the whole area of your life where you just indulge in all this stuff about who liked me and who didn't like me and they used to like me. Why don't they like me? All that. And just talking about that, we think about how heavy that is. It's a lot of time and stress and everything. But we need to do that because it's part of who we are as humans. And you have a place to do it. I feel like it's a relief that in all the rest of our life and in our work and, I don't have to worry about this stuff. At the dry cleaner, I don't have to sit there. Do they like me? Look, I'm a customer. So go ahead and treat me as all the other customers and provide me excellent dry cleaning service. I don't have to sit here and worry about whether or not you like me or want to hang out with me or what kind of music I like. I'm a customer. And that is a relief. And like I said, this system actually makes our lives easier and low stress and awesome. So get out there. You already have the respect because we all do intrinsically. Sustain it. And the other side, and then the being liked, put that in that very clear part of your life where it is really important. Your friends, who you're going to hang out with, who you're going to marry, all that kind of good stuff. That's where it belongs. But everywhere else, you don't have to worry about it. So if they don't like your favorite color, good. If they don't like the kind of, the favorite movie you like, good. If they don't like, the way that your, cheek bones are, good. Who cares? They still have to treat you as a customer. All right? And equally, and same thing at work. This just makes life easy because being liked is hard. Just talking about it, right? It's tough to have these places and spaces in our life where we can just get out there and just do stuff like, be a customer, be a client, and then go do our work and not have to worry about any of that. Oh, what a relief, right? Woo! Makes everything so much more relaxing in life. Thank you for joining me today. As always, I do ask that you share with me any show ideas or suggestions. I am on Twitter at Zealous Business, and that if you find our program on a distribution partner anywhere in the world, iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, Libsyn, please leave ratings and reviews because that's really important as we continue to grow our resources. Thank you for being here.